3 disturbing true farm stories. Story 1. The corn. I need to tell you what I found in my grandfather's cornfield before I lose my nerve. My name's Matt Sullivan. I'm 32, and I just inherited 480 acres in Iowa that I'm never setting foot on again. Let me back up. My grandfather died in April. 87 years old, sharp as a tack until the very end. Heart attack in his sleep, the kind of death everyone hopes for. I was his only grandkid, so the farm came to me. My dad died when I was young, and Grandpa Earl raised me summers on that land. Taught me to drive the combine when I was 12. Let me take the truck into town when I was 14. I loved that farm. Past tense. The funeral was small. Grandpa didn't have many friends left. Most of his generation was already gone. But there was this one guy, maybe 70 years old, who showed up late and stood in the back. After the service, he pulled me aside. "You inheriting the property?" "Yeah." He nodded, slowly, like he was chewing on something difficult. "Your grandfather was a good man. But if I were you, I'd sell it. Don't work the land yourself." "Why not?" He looked at me for a long time. "Because some fields give more than they should. And when that happens, they always take something back." Then he left. I didn't think about it again until August. I've been managing the farm remotely. Hired a crew to handle the planting and maintenance. But in late summer, the foreman called me. "Matt, we got a problem with the back 40. The back 40 was Grandpa's main cornfield. 40 acres of the best soil in the county. That field had produced prize-winning yields for 30 years straight." "What kind of problem?" "You need to see it yourself." I drove out from Des Moines the next morning. The farm looked exactly like I remembered. White house, red barn, field stretching to the horizon. The corn was tall, easily 8 feet, and so thick you couldn't see between the rows. The foreman, a guy named Ray, met me by his truck. "Show me," I said. We walked into the field. The first 50 feet looked normal. Standard spacing, healthy stalks, good color. Then Ray stopped. There. In front of us, the corn changed. Not died, not diseased. Changed. The stalks were taller, maybe 10, 11 feet. Thicker too, like bamboo. The ears were massive, hanging heavy. 2 or 3 per stalk instead of the usual one. "Jesus," I whispered. "How much is back here?" "The whole 40 acres. Every stalk." "That's not possible." Ray shrugged. "I've been farming for 26 years. I've never seen anything like it." "Did Grandpa use some kind of fertilizer? Special seeds?" "Not that I know of. And Matt, there's something else." He walked deeper into the field. I followed. About 100 feet in, we found the first gap. A perfect circle, maybe 6 feet across, where no corn grew, just bare dirt. "There are dozens of these," Ray said, "scattered throughout the field. Always circles, always the same size." I crouched down and touched the dirt. It was warm, not sun warm. This was August in Iowa. The ground should have been baking. But this wasn't surface heat. This was heat from below. "Ray, is there any kind of, I don't know, geothermal activity in this area?" "No." I stood up, looked around. From ground level, you couldn't see the pattern. But I pulled up my phone and checked the satellite view of the property. My stomach dropped. The circles weren't random. They formed a spiral, starting from the center of the field and curling outward in a perfect mathematical pattern. 43 circles total. I counted them twice. "Ray, when did this corn get planted?" "April 15th, same as every year." "And when did you first notice this?" 3 weeks ago. It was normal before that. Then one morning, it wasn't. 3 weeks. The corn had changed in 3 weeks. We need to harvest this, I said. Ray shook his head. I'm not going in there with equipment. Why not? Because 2 of my guys already quit. Said they heard things. What kind of things? Voices. Coming from the middle of the field. I spent that night in Grandpa's house. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what an old man at the funeral had said. Some fields give more than they should. This corn was going to produce triple the normal yield. Maybe more. That should have been good news. Instead, I felt sick. At 2 a.m., I heard it. A sound from outside. Low, rhythmic, singing. I got out of bed and looked out the window. The cornfield was swaying. No wind. The trees were still. The flags in the barn weren't moving. But the corn was swaying like something was moving through it. Something big. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. I don't know why. Every instinct said stay in the house, lock the doors, call someone. But I walked toward the field anyway. The singing got louder. Not words. Just a melody. Low and droning, like a chant. I reached the edge of the corn and stopped. The stalks near the front were moving, bending inward, like something was pulling them toward the center of the field. I pointed my flashlight into the rows, and I saw her. A woman, maybe 30 years old, wearing a dress that looked homemade, floral print, long sleeves. She was standing about 20 feet into the corn, facing away from me, singing. "Hey," I shouted, "you're on private property." She stopped singing. Slowly, she turned around. Her face was wrong. I can't explain it better than that. The features were there, eyes, nose, mouth. But they were arranged in a way that didn't make sense, like someone had described a face to an artist who'd never seen one. She smiled and stepped backward into the corn. I ran. The next morning, I called Ray. "Burn it." "What?" "The whole back 40. I want it burned to the ground." "Matt, that's $250,000 worth of..." "I don't care. Burn it today." Silence. "What did you see?" Ray asked quietly. "Just do it." Ray and his crew doused the field in diesel and lit it at noon. I watched from the house. The fire spread fast. Dry corn burns like paper. Black smoke poured into the sky, visible for miles. It took 6 hours to burn completely. When it was over, Ray walked the field. He called me 20 minutes later. "Matt, you need to see this." I met him at the edge of the burned field. The ground was black. Ash covered everything. The smell was awful. Burned plants and something else. Something organic. Ray led me to the center of the field, where the spiral of circles had been. The ash had settled differently there. Thinner, like something underneath was radiating heat. Ray used a shovel to scrape away the top layer, and we saw them. Bones. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Small ones. Delicate. Not human, but not animal either. They were arranged in patterns, spirals within spirals, geometric shapes that hurt to look at. "What the fuck?" Ray whispered. I didn't answer, because at the very center of the pattern was a stone. Smooth, black, covered in symbols I didn't recognize. And it was warm to the touch. I sold the farm in September. Took a loss, didn't care. The new owners are a development company. They're turning it into a housing subdivision. I tried to warn them about the back 40. They laughed, said the soil tests came back perfect. Best ground in the county. They broke ground last month. I got a call from the site foreman 2 weeks ago. "Mr. Sullivan, we found something during excavation." "What?" "Structures. Underground, stone. We think they might be Native American, but what? They're not on any historical surveys. And sir, they're still warm. I hung up. I don't sleep well anymore, because I keep thinking about that woman in the corn, the way she smiled, the way she stepped backward, deeper into the field, like she was inviting me to follow. And I keep wondering, if the corn was the gift, what was the payment? What did my grandfather give them to make that field produce the way it did? And now that the corn is gone, now that I burned it all down, are they going to want something else? Story 2. The Silo. My family's farm in Nebraska has 3 grain silos. 2 of them work fine. We don't open the third one. I'm Katie Brennan, and I've lived on this farm my entire life. My parents bought the property in 1998, back when I was 6 years old. 340 acres, decent house, good barn, and 3 silos. The real estate agent mentioned them during the showing. Said they came with the property. The previous owner included them in the sale. My dad asked if they were structurally sound. The agent said, 2 of them are. The third one, I'd leave it alone. My dad laughed, thought she was joking. She wasn't. We moved in June. The first 2 silos were standard harvestor models, big blue cylinders, maybe 60 feet tall. We used them for corn and soybeans. They worked perfectly. The third silo was different. Older, made of concrete instead of steel. No windows, no exterior ladder. Just a single door at ground level, padlocked shut. My dad tried to open it the first week we lived there. The lock was rusted solid. He had to cut it off with bolt cutters. When the lock fell away, the door didn't budge. He pushed, pulled, hit it with a hammer. Nothing. Sealed from the inside, he muttered. Mom told him to leave it. We didn't need the space. Dad agreed. That should have been the end of it. I started hearing the knocking when I was 8. Always at night, always the same rhythm. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks. It came from outside, somewhere near the barn. I told my parents. Dad checked the silo doors. Both working silos were sealed tight. No animals, no loose panels. Probably just the wind, he said. But there was no wind. The knocking continued for months. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, always between midnight and 3 a.m. I started sleeping with headphones. But sometimes, when I took them off to use the bathroom, I'd still hear it. And it was louder, closer. When I was 13, I asked my mom about the third silo. Why don't we use it? She was folding laundry, didn't look up. It's sealed. But why? I don't know, Katie. It was like that when we bought the place. Didn't you ask the previous owner? She stopped folding. We never met him. What? The sale was handled through a lawyer. The owner never showed up to closing, signed everything remotely. That's weird. Yeah. She went back to folding, but her hands were shaking. I found the letters when I was 16. I was helping Dad clean out the attic when I found a box labeled Property Documents. Inside, the deed, inspection reports, mortgage papers, and 3 handwritten letters, all addressed to future owner, all from the same person, Robert Marsh, the previous owner. The first letter was dated May 15th, 1998, 2 weeks before we moved in. To whom it may concern. Congratulations on your new property. I hope it serves you well. I need to inform you about the third silo. Do not open it. Do not attempt to enter it. Do not remove the seal. I know this sounds irrational, but I am begging you, leave it alone. Sincerely, Robert Marsh. The second letter was dated June 3rd, 1998, the day after we moved in. I know you've moved in by now. I need you to understand something. The silo is sealed for a reason. My grandfather sealed it in 1971. Before that, it was used for grain storage like the others. Then, something got inside. I don't know what it is. I never saw it. But I heard it. If you hear knocking, 3 knocks, always 3, do not answer. Do not acknowledge it. And for God's sake, do not open the door. Robert Marsh. The 3rd letter was dated June 30, 1998. I'm sorry. I should have told you this before you bought the property. But I was afraid you wouldn't go through with the sale, and I needed to leave. The knocking will continue. It might last months. It might last years. But as long as the door stays sealed, you're safe. My grandfather told me, whatever's inside can't get out on its own. It needs to be invited. So don't open the door, and don't answer the knocking. I'm sorry. Robert Marsh. I showed the letters to my parents. Dad read them twice. Then he walked outside to the 3rd silo. We followed. He stood in front of the door for a long time. Bill, Mom said quietly, leave it. There's nothing in there, Sharon. It's just a silo. Then why do we keep hearing knocking? Dad didn't answer. He opened it anyway. Not that day. But a week later, when Mom and I were in town, he rented a concrete saw, cut through the seal, pried the door open. When we got home, he was sitting on the porch steps, white as a sheet. Bill? Mom dropped the groceries. What did you do? He didn't answer, just pointed at the 3rd silo. The door was open. I walked over slowly. The inside of the silo was empty. Completely empty. No grain, no equipment, just smooth concrete walls and a floor covered in a thin layer of dust. And in the very center of the floor, a pile of rocks, small ones, river stones, arranged in a perfect circle about 3 feet across. Dad, what is this? I don't know. Did you move these? No, they were like that when I opened the door. That night, the knocking stopped. For the first time in 8 years, the farm was silent. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt sick. 3 days later, our dog disappeared. Rosie, a golden retriever we'd had since I was 10. She was in the backyard one minute, gone the next. We searched for hours, called her name, drove around the property, nothing. At midnight, Dad went out one more time with a flashlight. He found her, inside the 3rd silo. She was sitting in the center of the circle of stones, facing the door, tail wagging. Rosie, come here, girl. She didn't move. Dad walked into the silo. The door slammed shut behind him. Mom and I heard the boom from the house. We ran outside. The silo door was closed, locked from the inside. We pulled, screamed, beat on the concrete. Nothing. Then we heard my dad, shouting, not for help, not in pain, just shouting. Words we couldn't understand, over and over, for 3 hours. At 3 a.m., the door opened. Dad walked out. Rosie didn't. Mom grabbed him. Bill, what happened? Where's Rosie? He looked at her like he didn't recognize her. She wanted to stay, he said. Then he walked to the house and went to bed. Dad hasn't been the same since. He's quiet, distant, spends hours staring at the 3rd silo. Sometimes I catch him standing at the door, hand on the handle, like he's thinking about going back in. Mom asked him once what he saw inside. He said, nothing. But he was lying. I know because at night, when he thinks we're asleep, I hear him crying. The knocking started again last month. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. But it's not coming from the silo anymore. It's coming from inside the house. Different rooms, different walls. Always at night. Always 3 knocks. Last week, I found something in my bedroom. A circle of stones on the floor. Small ones. River stones. Arranged in a perfect 3-foot circle. I didn't put them there. And when I asked my parents, they said they didn't either. But I don't think they were telling the truth. Because this morning, I found the same circle in their room, and one in the kitchen, and one in the basement. We're selling the farm. The realtor asked if there were any issues she should disclose to buyers. Mom said no. I wanted to tell her about the letters, about the knocking, about the circles. But I didn't. Because I'm terrified that if I say it out loud, if I acknowledge what's happening, it'll get worse. The new owners move in next month. I wonder if they'll hear the knocking. I wonder if they'll open the silo. And I wonder, when they do, what they'll find inside. Because I don't think it's empty anymore. Story 3. The fence. There's a fence on our property that doesn't belong to us. We've owned this ranch in Wyoming for 12 years, and that fence was here when we arrived. It's still here, and we've learned not to touch it. My name's Derek Cole. My wife Amanda and I bought 800 acres outside of Gillette in 2012. Cattle ranch, beautiful land, mountains on one side, open prairie on the other. The fence runs along the northern border, barbed wire, wooden posts, nothing special, except it's not on our property line. It's 200 feet inside our land. We noticed it during the first survey. The surveyor marked our actual boundary, a full football field north of the fence. That fence is on your property, he said. You can remove it if you want. Amanda asked if he knew who built it. He shrugged. Been there since at least the 70s. Might be older. We figured the previous owner just got the property line wrong. We'd take it down when we had time. We never did. Our ranch manager, a guy named Tom, told us to leave it alone. Why? I asked. Because the cattle won't cross it. What do you mean? I mean, we've got 800 acres, but the herd won't go past that fence. They graze up to it, then turn around. Every single time. Maybe they're used to it being a boundary. Tom shook his head. We moved a dozen head past it manually last spring. Drove them north to test the grazing. And they came back. Crossed back over the fence within 6 hours. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't settle. Just kept trying to get south. I went out to look at the fence myself. It was old, weathered. Some of the posts were rotten, but it was still standing. Tight wire. No gaps. I walked along it for about a mile. Every 100 feet or so, there was something tied to the wire. Scraps of cloth, faded and torn. Some were white, some were red. I counted 43 of them. I untied one. The cloth was old, felt like cotton but brittle. It fell apart in my hands. Underneath, carved into the fence post, was a symbol. Not letters, not numbers, just a shape. Like a circle with lines radiating outward. I checked the next post, same symbol, and the next. Every single post along that fence had the same carving. That night, I asked Tom about the cloth. Oh yeah, he said. Previous owner told me about those. What are they? Markers. Don't ask me what they're marking. He wouldn't say. Did he tell you anything else about the fence? Tom hesitated. He said if the cloth ever falls off, we need to replace it. Why? He didn't say, just said it was important. I let it go. We had a ranch to run, cattle to manage. The fence wasn't hurting anything. But then we had a drought. Summer of 2015. Worst dry spell in 30 years. Our southern pastures turned brown. The stock pond dropped 6 feet. But north of the fence, green grass, wildflowers, a small creek still running. It didn't make sense. Same soil, same weather. But the land on the other side of the fence looked untouched. I rode out there on horseback, got right up to the fence. The difference was insane. On our side, dry, cracked earth. On the other side, lush grass, knee-high. I dismounted and walked along the fence line. Found a spot where the wire had come loose. I stepped through. The moment I crossed, the air changed. Cooler, heavier, and silent. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just nothing. I walked about 50 feet. The grass was thick, untouched. Like nothing had grazed here in years. I crouched down and touched the ground. It was damp. I dug my fingers in. The soil was wet, almost muddy. But we hadn't had rain in 2 months. I stood up. That's when I saw the bones, scattered in the grass, maybe 20 feet away. I walked over. Cattle bones, old, bleached white. A dozen of them, maybe more, all arranged in a circle. And in the center, another fence post, knocked over, broken, with the same symbol carved into it. I heard something behind me, a footstep. I turned around. Nobody there. But the grass where I'd been standing was flattened, like something had walked through it. Something big. I ran back to the fence, crossed back over. And I swear, the moment I stepped back into our property, I heard breathing, right behind me. I didn't look back. I told Amanda that night. She listened quietly. Then she said, "We're replacing the cloth." "What?" "The markers. We're replacing every single one this weekend." "Amanda, it's just superstition." "I don't care." We spent 2 days retying cloth to the fence. New strips, white cotton, every 100 feet, 43 total. When we finished, Amanda stood back and looked at the fence. "Do you feel that?" she asked. "Feel what?" "The air. It's different." She was right. The pressure had changed, like before a thunderstorm. That night, the cattle panicked, all of them. 300 head. Stampeded south, away from the fence. Took us 4 hours to calm them down. Tom found me at dawn, covered in dust. What the hell happened? I don't know. They just bolted. He looked north, toward the fence. "Did you touch it?" "We replaced the markers." His face went pale. "Jesus, Derek, you weren't supposed to touch the fence." "Tom, what is that fence?" He didn't answer right away. Finally, the previous owner told me something before he left. Said his grandfather built that fence in 1952. Why? To keep something in. And where? In the northern section, the land past the fence. What's up there? I don't know. But his grandfather made him promise, never take down the fence, never cross it, and never let the markers fall. What happens if they do? Tom looked at me. He said the land forgets where it ends. We sold the ranch last year. Took a loss, didn't care. Told the new owners about the fence. They nodded. Said they'd maintain it. But last month I got a call from Tom. He still lives in the area. "Derek, you need to know something." "What?" "The new owners took down the fence." My stomach dropped. Why? "They wanted access to the northern pasture, said it was a waste to leave 200 acres unused. Tom, they've lost 16 head of cattle. Just disappeared. No tracks, no blood, just gone." "Did they cross the fence line?" "There is no fence line anymore. They tore the whole thing down." Tom said something else before he hung up. "Derek, the northern pasture is growing." "What do you mean, growing?" "I mean, the grass line is moving south, 1/2 mile in the last month. It's crossing onto their main property." "That's not possible." "I'm looking at it right now. And Derek, there are bones. Hundreds of them, in the grass, arranged in circles. The line went quiet. Then, I think you need to stay away from Wyoming for a while. I haven't been back, but I check the satellite images every few weeks. The green is spreading, slowly, but steadily. It's covered most of the ranch now, and last week I noticed something new. In the very center of the northern pasture, a structure. It wasn't there before. I zoomed in as far as the image would allow. It looked like a fence, old, wooden, but much larger than the one we tore down, and surrounding it, hundreds of white markers. I don't know what that fence was keeping in, but I think it's out now, and I think it's building something new. End.